Welcome to the Find My Catalyst podcast. We all have problems we're looking to solve, and we know that there are solutions out there, but we struggle with this. How do we find the solution? Where does that nudge come from to help us take the next step and start solving tough problems? This podcast is designed to help you find your catalyst and take that next step. I'm Mike Simmons. I'm the founder of Catalyst Sale, and tonight I decided to do a test a live recording of the podcast on LinkedIn Live, and I messed up. I screwed up on the audio on LinkedIn Live. I was picking up the wrong microphone. The content's good, so I'm going to go ahead and use it. If this content is frustrating to you or you don't like the audio, send me a direct message letting me know that you heard the podcast episode and you'd like to have a conversation with me directly, and I will schedule a call with you. Just let me know that the audio was too rough and you'd rather work through this directly. Again, I'm Mike Simmons. I'm the founder of Catalyst Sale. Let's get to the podcast. I'm going to record a live version of the Find My Catalyst podcast, and I'm going to answer a question that came up recently around recovering from a bad year, recovering from an off year, and selling in uncertainty. Recovering from a bad year and selling in uncertainty. So let's talk about recovering from a bad year. If you recover from a bad year, you go through a situation where you've not hit your number. You got to remember, look, there are ups and downs. There are ups and downs in sales. There are ups and downs in business. There are ups and downs in life. Ups and downs in sales, ups and downs in business, and ups and downs in life. It's going to happen. So how do you recover? Well, the first thing I would do is get back to basics. Get back to basics. And when we talk about getting back to basics, that means looking at your process. What is your process? Are you operating with a defined process? And I don't mean the sales process that you use from a forecasting perspective inside your organization. That's something a little bit different. That sales process is there to help with forecasting and probability of sale. What I'm talking about is your own internal process, the way that you do your work. How do you go about doing your work? And if you've listened long enough or you've been paying attention to the podcast, this is where I get into rep approach. You identify, you engage with people, establish objectives, clarify next steps, and call people to action. And then as we move into repeating that loop, re-engage, establish objectives, clarify next steps, and call people to action. As you get back to those basics, you get back to the basic blocking and tackling, then you can start to test and say, okay, what's actually happening? Let's deconstruct this. Am I engaging with the right people? Have I done my ideal customer profile work? Am I engaging with the right organizations? Again, have I done my ideal customer profile work, target customer work from a territory planning perspective? If I'm engaging with the right type of people and I'm engaging with the right type of customers, has something changed? Has something changed in their operating environment? Are they slowing down their spending? Are they reprioritizing things? Is there another incumbent or another a threat inside the market? If so, let's gather some data, assess that data, and understand how we might need to adjust. What we might need to do is we may actually need to shift market. We may need to shift approach. Maybe something has changed. So recovering from a bad year, get back to the basics, check your process from an individual rep approach and the way that you go about doing your daily work. Then when you actually get in front of a customer, let's make sure that you're going through and doing your call planning. And call planning, just like effective meetings, what I'm looking for there is who's going to be in the room, what do I anticipate are their objectives, what are my objectives, our objectives as an organization, and what are our desired next steps. And you start to see some common themes here. We're always working to make sure that we understand objectives from the perspective of the customer and the objectives from our perspective. Now, when it comes to the customer, we're going to anticipate those. When it comes from us, we're going to go through the process of saying, this is what our objective is for a given call. If it's discovery, we're learning. If it's capability, we're sharing and validating. If it's post-trial review, we're assessing, understanding, working to move forward. So again, get back to the basics from an approach perspective, how you go about doing the work, and then how you leverage the tools. Now, let's say that the challenge that we're running into is deals are just stalling. They've slowed down for whatever reason. Well, let's get into things like account planning and make sure that from a when perspective, we've been able to identify the compelling event that is going to help drive the deal forward. Remember, we can't create urgency, we can reveal urgency. So, what is the compelling event that's going to drive the deal forward or help accelerate the deal? Maybe the compelling event is that there's a quiet period that exists inside the organization in the month of September and they can't implement in that month. But they need to be able to launch the program to the organization by October 1st. Well, the compelling event means that we've got to work backward from that September time period so that we've got everything in place to be able to launch in October, knowing that there's going to be a quiet period in the month of September. The compelling event could be something like a fiscal year. That's when budget is available. The compelling event could be an MBO that an executive has agreed to inside the organization. Our job as sales professionals is to identify that compelling event and tie things to it, not tie things to when we think a deal is going to be done. It's not about when we think a deal is going to be done. It's about when something needs to happen, when an implementation needs to happen. Again, getting back to basics. Lean on our account planning, lean on our call planning, lean on our territory planning. And then when it comes to going through and executing on things, make sure we're following that repeatable process. When you ever get into a rough time, a bad year, realize that there are going to be ups and downs in this profession. There's going to be ups and downs in your business. There's going to be ups and downs in life. The best time to prepare for those down periods is when things are up. Now, if you're in a situation where you've not prepared properly for that and things are down, as I think Winston Churchill once said, if you're going through hell, just keep going. Right? You want to keep moving through that process. Let's say that you don't have pipeline and you're going through the process of trying to figure out, how do I actually build something from nothing, late stage, beginning of the year, build from 0 to 1? How do I go through? Well, again, let's get back to some of our basics from a demand gen perspective. Where does our business come from? Where have you historically generated business? Some of us generate business through content marketing, inbound activities, leads come in. Great if you've got that kind of setup in place. Others of us generate business through cold outreach, the direct engagement, where we're identifying that target customer and we're reaching out to them directly. And others generate business through referrals. Those are 3 different ways that we generate business here at Catalyst. The inbound stuff is a little bit slower. I actually have not figured that out just yet. One of our inbound tools, though, is something like the podcast. So ideally, you hear the podcast, you listen to it, you go to the website, maybe you go check out the game plan, you follow some of the activity on LinkedIn, you engage with the content, and then maybe we have a conversation. So there's this inbound activity. There's outreach activity where you're identifying a target customer and you're reaching out to them directly. Ideally, you're reaching out to them directly in context. So you've identified them as your ideal customer from a person perspective. Some people will talk about this in the context of marketing as persona. Your ideal customer at an individual level, the person, and your ideal customer at an organization. So you want to find the people inside the organizations that you want to work with. And then ideally, you can find a situation where they've shared some information, they've engaged in some content, they've done some kind of activity that provides some context for your outreach, growth inside their organization, a recent funding round. Maybe they're hiring certain people. These are all indicators, signals that you can see out there. And then when you conduct outreach, do something that's compelling, something that is related specifically to them. I'm a big fan of Jeff Hoffman's Why You Now messaging. And you can listen to the podcast that we have out there around conducting initial outreach to prospects. And that Why You Now has worked for me historically. Now, the third way, and this is where I've seen a lot of success in the business, is going back out to the network, letting people know what you're working on, letting people know not only what you're working on, but who you want to work with. Use that as a way to amplify or increase the number of eyes and ears that are out there in the marketplace looking for opportunities on your behalf. If you have these eyes and ears out there capturing signal, they can direct people to you. If people understand what you do, why you do it, how you do it, and who you do it for, they're going to be in a better position to recommend you when they're sitting down talking with someone and find that someone's struggling with either growing their business or delivering, fulfilling things in their business, which are two of the problems that I focus on inside the business. So get back to basics after a bad year. When it comes to selling within uncertainty, times of uncertainty, where things are just a bit chaotic, things are just out of control, things are just not exactly what you would expect, take these same concepts, go back to the basic blocking and tackling, and start applying it in new potential markets. Identify some of those markets that you might want to test in. I would always conduct 3 tests. And the reason I want to conduct 3 tests is because I don't want to get myself in a situation where my success is going to be limited on guessing right. So 3 tests. A test might be, and this is an area where I'm starting to focus some attention on, the testing in the construction vertical. I'm starting to do some things that are local inside your community. Testing in groups of people that pull together communities that have a common interest. I think of startup. The startup ecosystem out here in Phoenix is really broad. Startup, Yes Phoenix puts on Startup Week. There are a number of different entrepreneur programs. The people that are operating inside these programs might be struggling with growth. They might be struggling with execution. 2 areas where I can help. As you go out there and do this, start to think about what are some of the other markets where I can take my solution and apply that same solution and start solving tough problems inside those organizations. Ideally focused on some of those markets who might thrive, or industries that might thrive in times of uncertainty. Net, get back to basics. Do the basic blocking and tackling. Leverage the tools that are available to you. Simplified the Catalyst Sale tools to make it really easy to apply those and remove emotion from the discussion. When it comes to call planning, it's a square. When it comes to account planning, it's a hexagon. When it comes to proposal planning or investment decisions, again, it's a square. Use these tools to help formulate the questions that you're asking and keep a level of clarity and focus so that you can accelerate your speed to impact and drive execution. Get back to basics, get out there, do the work, test some things, and don't forget to lean on your network, lean on your community. A number of people are running through many of the same challenges that you might be running through right now. They're coming off of a really bad year. They're coming off a great year and see a bad year coming. They are working in markets that have been impacted by the economic situation. We're all going through a little bit of something. Lean on others, share experience, and I'm sure there are a number of folks out there who can help you work through some of the challenges you're working on. If you'd like to reach out to me directly, you know how to get a hold of me. Send me a direct message on LinkedIn or a direct message on Twitter. I hope you enjoyed this live version of the podcast. If you know of somebody who would get value out of this episode, enjoy listening to this, find something that they can apply, please share it with them. Let me know via LinkedIn, Twitter. Sales is a thinking process. Life is a thinking process. Business is a thinking process. How are you thinking differently about your process? Thank you.